first of all,
Okay.
we're back.
Yep.
Hey.
We are back.
Hey.
That was a nice long break, guys.
Yeah, and congratulations to all of the graduates out there as of printing. I don't know what the timing is overseas, but like grad school in the
Locally,
Philippines
yeah.
is out. People have
Congratulations,
graduated. Oh my god, you're going to a whole new world. It's fucking scary. You're going to learn a lot of things, such as the free meals you're going to cook for yourself, the breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like, the only things you're going to cook. That when they bisect you, it's just going to be a layer cake of all of those foods you learned to cook.
Like that you've reduced the postgrad experience to like cooking 3 meals.
I fucking love cooking. And of course, you're gonna find some stress when you're looking for a job.
You're just gonna find a lot of that.
Yeah, you're gonna find a lot of that. And I mean, I've got a song for you.
What's the song, Pat?
I'm so stressed that sunlight hurts. I am God's mistake. That's all you need to do.
Oh boy.
See, this is supposedly a reboot, but I'm still me. I'm still Patinator. And joining me, with regret.
First day back. First day, last day. First day, last day, regret all the way.
I'm gonna get recast.
You're gonna be a Terrence Howard of this movie.
Oh no. Can I pick
should
Paul,
Don Cheadle
Paul
bet?
Rudd? Paul Rudd would be amazing. That guy's an angel. He hangs out with Chris's all day. But yes, we're no longer the amateurish, boorish. Hey. We're on iTunes now, right?
Yeah, we are on iTunes now, so
Yeah.
I have an Android, so someone else will have to talk about how to access that stuff.
yeah, so we're on iTunes now. If you want to listen to all the other older episodes of the show, just look for Between Keyboard and Chair on iTunes.
You can find us on your favorite podcast apps, whatever that is. Pocket Casts, Downcasts,
Not Stitcher.
not Stitcher.
Specific.
We're working on that
or the native Apple
Or,
podcast.
yeah, you can, of course,
You know,
on
that-
podcast app. Yeah, so if you are on an Android, just get whatever podcast app you're using, because you're probably not using the Google Play Store, and just look for us there. What's going on here? This is playing great.
I tried it. I googled us and iTunes. It wasn't there.
Should be there.
What? What?
No, like
Search for
Google.
it.
I don't
if
think
they-
Pat knows how to use Google or iTunes for that matter.
I don't
See,
know how to use
Pat,
iTunes.
Pat is a recent
That's true.
convert to an Android phone, and
It was free.
and still getting the ropes of it. So
That's actually true. It took me a while to find contacts. Like, where's the phone in the fucking phone?
do you actually have a proper podcast app on that phone?
No. I didn't know there were so many. I looked it up in the Google Play Store. It's like, that's too many. I'm going back to Google. I gotta go listen to like iTunes and shit.
Right.
It's-
Okay.
Well, look, if you follow us on social media, the link will be there. For
yes,
sure.
and again, I don't know why you're searching Google for podcasts.
That's
I
what he said you
genuinely
to do.
don't
I think
know why
you
you're
can.
doing it. You search.
I just wanted to see
I
if
have
it was
no
true.
idea what he's doing right now, but if
There's a lot of...
I found our WordPress and our Podbean one, so like we're there,
Right, we're there.
kind of.
Podbean is graciously hosting our
Yeah.
podcast right now, so
So all of our episodes are there.
all of our episodes are on the Podbean site. But again,
Hey, there's
other
a preview for it.
The link to the iTunes will be up in the social
or
media.
if you want to go straight to the site, that would be bkcpodcast.com.
Yeah, we have a slick new logo and another name on it because he really should have been there a while ago.
Yeah, so that's what's up.
that's what's new. With us, new logo.
We decided that in case you also notice, we sound a bit different. We're testing
Hopefully.
out some microphones here. We
Yes.
each have our own individual mics. Now they're not all the same, so bear with us a little bit.
Yeah, we're also not creepily hovering over one
Yeah.
mic like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is something to look at. Or imagine in your head, just one big mic and 3 dudes speaking to that mic.
That happened.
Yeah.
So because of all these new things, because of all these new changes, we're kind of calling this the season 2,
Season 2, yeah.
or if you will, the reboot.
Wow,
Of
that is
BKC
that is a nice segue into our main topic, which will be reboots.
which we'll be discussing later.
That's true. I'm just not burying the lead.
So,
but
for the time being,
let's just catch up.
let's catch up.
What have you guys been doing the past few weeks/months at this point? When was the last time?
Well, I think, Pons, you have the most interesting stories here, considering you're a teacher and your students have just graduated.
Yes,
I guess, thesis and all.
Most interesting is a very strong word to
well.
use. I have the least interesting things happen, except for my students. They've graduated recently. All 15 of my thesis kids.
I saw Ponzi in a toga, and he looked sick in a toga with his
togas are nice.
This took a turn.
You know what's not nice that day? The fucking heat.
Oh,
The thing we keep forgetting is that we can bring our togas with us to a dressing room in the graduation area. Yet we still insist on wearing it in the office, and we walked all the way from that building to the other long building.
Because when else are you gonna wear a toga, man? You gotta milk that. No one's gonna laugh at me today.
Because people wanted pictures.
That too.
That's the one. So we just wore the thing before we walked. We should have just walked, then wore it in the area.
Just hold it.
Just held it, yeah. Because we would leave it there anyway.
In fairness, nobody looked sweaty in the picture, so it wasn't like this is clearly uncomfortable.
Sir, that's a miracle in itself, because I was like sweating buckets that day, that particular afternoon. It was surprisingly cold inside the actual graduation area. We had a nice big fan on top of us. But like during the wait, horrible. Yeah. Congratulations, kids. I am proud of you for graduating.
Hey, congratulations.
Yeah.
I've never been, but I'm sure it's cool.
I hear it is. It's a very different experience than when you're not the one getting the diploma. We're just like a spectator, like, hey, look, someone I know.
There's a game I wanted to play, but Tim got to play, Frostpunk. It's like a crisis management thing, right? Where it's just gonna get worse.
I think that's the best way to describe that game. Crisis management.
Yeah, that's a good game. Recently I was able to play that game because I've had a little bit of time on my hands.
Surprise!
I've been taking a paternity leave, if you will, a little bit of a self-imposed paternity leave. Recently, my wife and I had our second kid. So
congratulations!
Thank you very much.
Nice.
And so what that has done, it's given me a bit of time to catch up on things. So I've been catching up on a few things
like games,
like games. Like I've actually been able to play something. I can contribute now. Before I get into the games, because that's going to be a discussion in of itself. I've also been finally getting back into Formula 1 and football. I've been watching some football.
You were talking about there's a subscription service you get for
football?
football?
There's a subscription service here which would allow me to watch from the Spanish La Liga, from the Premier League of the UK, the Italian Series A bunch of different leagues, and you can watch them live. You can also have some catch-up episodes, and I was battling with myself. Okay, should I get this? Should I hold off? Do I really want to get back into the world of football? And eventually, one night I decide, let's give it a shot.
Just woke up
sitting in the dark.
That's actually that is what happened. That's what my wife and daughters were asleep, and
you sit up straight.
I was like, okay,
like Undertaker.
Are we gonna do this? Are we gonna do this? Are we gonna subscribe? Are we gonna bite the bullet and get that? And are we gonna watch? And I did. First match I watched was the UEFA Cup final of Real Madrid versus Liverpool. I'm not going to go into the details of what happened there, but that was very interesting. And of course, I've been watching Formula 1, the Monaco Grand Prix.
Have you been following that since the second season?
I've been following. So I tapered off a little bit 3 years ago, and then I got back into it, and every race, man, every race. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Go battle. I played Frostpunk, like Pat said, and that's a really good, really management heavy, really fantastically rendered,
and
really depressing game.
From the makers of This War of Mine.
Yeah, it's a really
From the makers
good game.
Of Break Your Heart games.
Yeah.
It's a really good game. So what you basically have to do is you have to create a new city, the city of New London. I'm not really going to go into the specifics of the story of the game and everything, but it's a management sim where you have to create edicts, make sure everyone's happy, make sure people don't kill you, and make sure that everyone survives. At least for the first scenario, it's a 60-day cycle. You have to make sure people survive.
2 months.
2 months. Like, how hard could it be for people not to hate me?
Yeah, I could go around for a year, people not hating me, right?
Find the asshole. It's eat the asshole.
The other premise of it, the main mechanic of it, is that you're in a... So something happened in the beginning, you're not sure what. Something happened that basically made the world really cold. So you start the game at negative 20 degrees Celsius.
Jesus.
Eventually, you're going to get into a storm, and that's going to bring it all the way down to negative 80 degrees Celsius.
Oh, boy. I thought it was like 60. I thought 60 was bad.
So you have to find a way to survive that. And if you can't do that, then you win. And there's a little twist at the end. I'm not going to say what that is, but it's a lot of fun.
Is burning the dissenters for fuel an option? Like, specifically burning dissenters?
Burning the dead is.
Yeah.
Not necessarily dissenters, but the dissenters
really
can be killed. It becomes really, really...
I feel like that's a decision I'd make in a snap. Like, burn them. And not thinking that, no, people will probably feel bad about this.
Like, but do you want to get cold or do you want to get angry?
Because you gotta be warm to get mad at me.
I mean, like I'm saying, like, use the anger to survive the cold. Hate me.
I'm helping.
I've been playing a little bit of BattleTech.
Oh, yeah, that thing. What did you think of BattleTech?
I honestly didn't quite like it that much. Mainly because... Okay, the jank of the actual game was a bit too much for me. I did not like the animations of the mechs. I couldn't... The story was all right. I didn't finish the whole story. I couldn't. But I guess I was hoping for something more. Now, it wasn't really a hyped game. It wasn't hyped up too much. But in my head it was, because it's a BattleTech game. So I had...
For context, you were a big BattleTech fan.
I am a massive...
I've
played every MechWarrior and BattleTech game, save the actual tabletop game.
Right. Oh, because that's a different commitment altogether.
Yeah.
You don't get to have a joystick and pilot a mech in a tabletop game.
But, I don't know, I was hoping for so much more. I'm not going to say it's a bad game, but... It's a game that I couldn't get into, especially with the mechanics of the game are ridiculously difficult and tedious.
Yeah, like, it doesn't really explain, like, okay, I know I have a 95% shot, but why do I have a shot?
Yeah. And the other thing is you really need... I feel like you actually really need history, to know the history of the BattleTech games, whether it be the video games or whether it be the tabletop, because...
Or the cartoons?
The mere fact... No, what did you say?
Cartoons?
No.
The cartoons
the cartoons.
non-canon.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The thing is, like, when... The game will tell you, okay... They'll throw out the words... the terms
barfs
tonnage,
out a lot of words.
Tonnage.
Yeah, tonnage.
Or heat.
Yeah.
Yeah, they explain it a little bit in the tutorial. But they don't explain... At least I don't remember them explaining...
You just click yes.
Are there heat sinks?
They don't explain the actual construction.
Yeah.
Like, you have to infer a lot.
Right? And it's just, I feel like if you know MechWarrior, you know the effects of like ER lasers or medium lasers or LRMs, SRMs, autocannons.
Yeah.
You know what that is. But if you're not, then
if you're a new guy,
it's just completely inaccessible.
Yep. It's a
weird thing. Like,
the barrier to entry is knowledge, is assumption.
Yeah.
It's lore.
It's lore, yeah.
So they made the game for old school fans.
I don't know who this game is for because
it's for tabletop fans because it is apparently a direct port of the tabletop game.
Oh, okay, all right. Which explains the leaning into lore without the
and they just adjusted the numbers so it looks more impressive because rolling 9 damage isn't as impressive as 100 damage.
If I were them, I just put like extra zeros in it, like.
Also, the old BattleTech problem did apply there too, where the bigger the gun was shorter the range. My 20mm cannon has no range, but why?
It's like a giant portable knife.
on
you
that,
mean a knife?
I mean, a knife. Sorry, my bad. That's right. No, knives are usually portable.
There is no non-portable knife.
Well,
it's just a sharp thing in the ground.
On that note, you've been playing a lot of it. I mean, has that been eating up your time? What have you been up to?
Not anymore. I mean, because I think today episode 42 is coming out.
Episode 42?
But like,
not anymore. Episode 42 is coming out.
Yeah, but it has like 66 episodes. I just need to it's just like once a day. Like, here you go. I'm moving on. No, my complaint about it is the lack of depth. Also, like, in almost every way possible.
In almost every sense?
Yes, actually. The tactical depth is, what if I shoot you first? You're dead. I never needed to develop a secondary tactic. There is, if you look at the numbers, there is no point to using
knives.
There is,
Later,
but I like punching stuff. Like, I have a grasshopper. It has 6 hard points for small weapons. It's like 6 flamers. Like, you're on fire. The worst, there's more, but the greatest sin for me was the mechs look and act the same.
Oh.
They feel the same. Like, aside from tonnage, like, okay.
Yeah, I get that. Like, it's not immersive in that. Because you'd think, right, and you build it set differently, it should act differently.
Yeah, and the only real changes are really hard to spot at a glance. Because I guess it is in lore, but like a lot of the mechs, let's say there's the Black Knight, which I think 65% of its free tonnage is available for weapons.
Huh, okay.
Like if you max out its armor, you have like 30 tons for guns.
30 tons of guns.
But that's an 80-ton mech. Whereas there's a piece of shit mech, like 95 tons. Has the same amount of like weapon tonnage availability as the Black Knight. So you're more armored, and that's it. But that kind of like granularity is like distinguished in the tabletop because like I've changed my engine, I can run faster. This one's like you're a heavy mech, you run this fast. Like there's no granularity. Also, the campaign was about Kamea Arano and not me. I was so annoyed. Like you made me the hero of a merc ship. And they're like, why don't you serve this lady? I'm like, but why though? I'm a mercenary. I get paid more elsewhere. Also, this bitch keeps taking up a slot in my land. So I'm like, but you suck though. We come from the net. Oh wait, shit, that's not the right reboot that we're talking about. But it is going to be relevant. Today, PKNC presents reboots. What are they? Do we like them? How do they taste? And is it something that we really want to see Skyrim do over and over again?
Yes.
Oh shit. Well, we're going to hear about that in today's E3. But first, of course, we need to, much like the Valentine's discussion, we need to discuss what counts as a reboot?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of stuff, right? Like reimaginings, retellings. Like the retellings were a huge thing once people figure out that was a way to get around Disney's IP contracts. Like holy shit! You want to read up on like that nightmare? Go to Wiki or something. Not here.
Not here. No, you won't find them here.
Okay, so what would count as a reboot for you guys?
Okay, I think first of all, it has to be a franchise of some sort, right? I mean, like we are expecting more than one thing.
Okay.
I think, or else it becomes a retelling.
Yeah.
And that it takes the important critical aspects of the first, but tells it in a arguably different and more contemporary way.
The incredulous Hulk asks citation or example.
I think for me, if you look at the classic Universal Studios Mummy movie, right, black and white Mummy movie, it's nothing like the Brendan Fraser action adventure that I love.
You mean the magnificent one?
Yes, the magnificent one. Imhotep. Like, I think that's like a good reboot, right? Like, it's the same idea of like it's a mummy thing.
Wait, hold on a second. I feel the need, and I feel like Tim also feels the need to ask, should a reboot be related? Because I'm like 90% certain that was not how the old mummy
it wasn't
movie
exactly.
was.
It wasn't at all the old
not being on the wrong
movie.
Side of the river.
Yeah, but because like the old movie wouldn't have worked in the 1990s setting, right? So I think that they take the ideal, like certain recognizable parts about the original, which is like literally the figure of a mummy,
and do things that.
What
if it were made now?
What would it be? And I think that there's always a challenge of like, for the original movie was a horror movie straight up.
Okay.
The Brendan Fraser series was not.
No, it was an action adventure.
It was an action adventure.
Also, Jet Li was there at some point.
No, we like to forget that ever happened.
That's true. So it is about taking it into the modern.
Yeah,
setting.
I think like it's like for me it's like an adaptation kind of thing, right? If you want to see the same thing, then why are we doing it why are we doing it again, right?
That's true. But
so you have to add something different to it, like your own spin
or a modern sensibility.
Yeah, I think that's for me what the reboot should be.
I guess I'm a little more liberal when it comes to the definition of reboot. I
think they should be allowed to marry whoever they want.
I think that a reboot doesn't necessarily have to belong to a long-standing franchise. It can just be a story that is told similar to what he said in a different way. It doesn't even need to be in a different way. The way I see it, it can be in exactly the same way but updated. I guess it goes to the question as it brings me to the question of why do they exist, and because I feel like they're for a different crowd. I feel like they're for a different crowd. They're for a different generation.
Yes, absolutely. They're for a different generation.
So there are a bunch of younger people out there who haven't seen it, haven't seen the original, or they can't relate as well to the original. So I think it's just a different way of telling the same story, but you could alter the story somewhat. That's what I feel it is.
Yeah, but I kind of agree in that respect, because with every reboot is the assumption that the watcher kind of knows what the basis of it is. At least with a vast majority of reboots, most distressingly, the Spider-Man reboots over and over again, because we have this understood idea: this dude got bitten by a spider, he's kind of a nerd, and now he's banging Mary Jane or Gwen Stacy later on. But
Spider-Man, the series, the movie series of Spider-Man is like a strange one for me.
Yeah, does that count as a reboot? Because technically,
yes,
by the definitions, yeah, it's the same characters, but the modern sensibility isn't quite changed, because it's just like
it changed at least a little bit from time to time, but it's not in a significant
or meaningful,
potentially meaningful way. But see, that's the tricky part of like this reboot business is that marketing side of things,
and that's how you step into why some reboots exist. Money.
Because the Spider-Man thing is a strange creature, right?
I bet he has 6 arms at some point.
Yeah, and becomes a actual really big fucking spider. Like, I can't believe that's in the cartoons. Like for kids, when I was watching it before, like when he transformed into like, because the thing is, I know that's happening in the comics. Like, I know that. And I saw on the TV like, holy shit, they're doing this.
And then MJ was like, I still love you.
Like, oh, I guess.
I
cool.
can't. I don't have a tongue.
Also have like, but like, it's a weird thing because the move to keep on doing a Spider-Man movie post the Tobey Maguire thing was like from my understanding was essentially a way to keep the IP.
Yes, like much the same as the Superman movies, I think.
Yeah, it's like it wasn't because there was something new to say about Spider-Man. It was because if I don't, it goes to the owners.
So that's one of the like less ideal uses of the reboot. Like the reasons for existence is I don't want to give it to you.
And so like you kind of have these like, you know, badly crafted things. Not bad in like it's garbage. It's just that it clearly needed more time
or care.
Yeah.
In fairness, like they did all have their own merits. Even not Richard Garfield. He made magic.
He is still a nerd, though.
Yes. Even when what's his name? Andrew Garfield was crawling on the fence and spinning around for no reason.
Because like I didn't have a problem with the casting, especially for the first Amazing Spider-Man movie. But you can see like. That one was under the premise of we want to Marvel-fy the Spider-Man franchise.
Yeah.
So we're gonna seed it with
future stuff.
And like, dude, come on, man. Yeah, just tell a Spider-Man story.
But that is something that you both touched on, like the marketing too, and like it's trying to tell a story because even with Spider-Man. Like, even when it was... Spuderman. Jim Spuderman.
Spaderman.
I would watch James Spader as Spider-Man.
I would watch him as retired Peter Parker. Like, in Marvel, it's like, fuck, I need to go back into action. It's like, his gut is showing through his costume. Like, but he can still climb off. Like, yeah.
No, if you can reach the wall. It's like, he pulled a Scotty. You're like, I can't do this anymore, Captain.
Let me save you, Mary Jane.
But even though it didn't care... And even though it was an effort in marketing, there is a clear difference in tone between the Tobey Maguire era, the Andrew Garfield era, and the
what new guy?
What's his name? He's a really good actor.
Tom Holland.
At least he was really good in that one scene. Also as being like a kid. Even the presentation is different. Like one, like they were thinking that Spider-Man or Peter arguably was like, hey, we should target this to people who know Spuderman. And shit, you got me saying it. Spider-Man. 'Cause like, so he was an adult. He was like, I'm in college.
Yeah.
The Lizard's my teacher. Green Goblin's my teacher. It's all awkward. And then they realized, like, wait, it's not just the adults who grew up with Spider-Man in the reboot. Maybe we should, like, age them down. And then they're in high school.
Yeah.
And then, like, Web Hand. I don't know where that came in the reboot. And they were still doing, I think, what was accidentally, not intentionally, we're speaking to a new audience, or we're trying to figure out our audience. Even though they didn't have the lack of time, some people on that fucking staff decided, we're going to do this right. Web Hand.
Web.
Also, let's have him play Itsy Bitsy Spider on the Lightning. But, man, they wasted that guy in that movie. And
the thing with that is, though, that they also try to appeal to nostalgia.
Yeah.
Yes, they did.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it works and sometimes it just doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're going to talk about specific examples later on. But, yeah, I mean, it's weird because at the end of the day, they are trying to pander... Maybe that's the wrong word, but they're trying to attract a new audience. But at the same time, they're trying to get that market of nostalgia. And I don't know. It goes back to, what is the main point of a reboot? I guess it depends from case to case.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So among the reasons are telling the story to a new audience. Yeah. Money!
Yeah.
And I guess because you have something new to say.
Yes.
Also, and which the next question is like, it kind of goes back to defining terms. Like, so what isn't
a reboot?
Like a retelling, is that a reboot? Because they do hit that points.
I think there's a big overlap. And to be clear, like when we talk about reboots, we're not just talking about film. We're talking about like media in general. Because reboots have been a common staple for comics forever.
Yeah.
Universes in comics have been rebooted.
Whatchamacallit? Musicals. That's the word. Not musicians.
Yeah,
I guess musicians can be rebooted if they're robots. But the Wizard of Oz one.
Yeah,
Wicked is a retelling, not a reboot.
It's not.
That's not.
I mean, that's not in the overlap. Like, particularly that because you're still you're just doing a different perspective in a story that's been told. But if you kind of want to start up like a new thing with the same perspective as before,
Charm coming up in the CW in a week. Looks awful.
Looks terrible.
Looks terrible.
Right, like I think of success, but getting ahead of myself, I guess. I mean, I think that for the overlap, retellings and reboots do share a big like area of overlap. Sometimes they're the same kind of thing. Sometimes it's more specific to retelling. Like Wicked is one of them. Whenever you have an alternate version of this story, that's a retelling, right? Because the protagonists are different, for one. But I think.
And it doesn't necessarily contradict the details of the first one.
Yeah,
it doesn't change anything. It doesn't assume that the first one didn't happen.
Yeah. So, a retelling often changes fundamental things of the same story.
Now that we have a somewhat working definition, or at least a somewhat clearer understanding what a reboot is, we have to talk about what works, what doesn't, what should get a kick in the bum, and what should... Well, let me explore my sexuality in a way that no one wants to hear about. Tim, you want to start us off?
The perfect handoff.
So wait, is that like...
Now that we've made it weird.
On the back end thing, they have been telling me to like, some things I shouldn't say. Is that one of them, guys?
Tweet at us. Send your complaints at Patinator
at gmail.com. They know how to email now.
My contribution to stuff that works would be the video game Hitman.
Yes, that's a fantastic franchise.
So there have been how many? 4 or 5, maybe more Hitman games prior to this one. Well, the last one that just came out.
Is that the one with the season like the seasonal events and stuff, like the hard targets?
Yes, yeah, that's the one now. So during the last Hitman game, I want to say that was Absolution. Their sales were going down. The interest was gone.
Rocket Nuns. They had Rocket Nuns.
Yeah.
I still want that game.
Not a Hitman kind of.
It is actually an interesting story as to what's happening to them now. But anyway.
In the game?
No. The company that's making Hitman.
Oh, no. Is it bad news?
No, it's great news, actually.
Yeah,
well...
yes. No.
No, it ended...
What a roller coaster of
It all
emotions.
ended well. Let's just put it that way. Anyway, so that's actually a really good game that started from scratch, per se. They started the story all over again. The origin of Agent 47, how he was first recruited. They try to put an overarching story in that game, and the origin story of Agent 47 is actually barely touched upon. They talk more about the agency that hired him and so on. But ultimately, maybe it's because it wasn't delved too much upon. That's why it worked. Because,
from what I saw of the gameplay of that, you were more Hitman in this story than any other. While like the other ones had the classic computer game problem of like, I can do a million complex things.
Yeah.
This one was like, I'm gonna do this contract like a Hitman instead of like, well, the dude told me, instead of like an actual contract. Like, there's a feel that you're looking at your like iPad and like, yeah, I'm gonna kill that dude today.
Yeah. Well, you can also kill him with a toilet. I mean, you can literally have a toilet drop on your target.
Pretty gross way to go.
Yeah.
From where?
From the second floor.
Oh.
It's an excellent game.
That wasn't the implied question.
It's an excellent game. I think that's actually what makes it a good reboot. It's not because it's they took care of the game, but at the same time, they didn't actually change his origin story that much.
Yeah.
So they took care of the story that he already had. They just put it into a new vehicle, and it worked. It worked.
I'm gonna use a bad word.
Mhm.
Accessible. Do you think
Okay.
that part of the reboot was to make the game more accessible? Because there was some criticism that like you now have pop-ups like listen to this guy like for clues.
I think this might actually have been the least accessible Hitman.
Really?
The reason I say that is because it requires you to be online, and they were episodic. So when you first bought the game, you had access to I think 3 episodes.
Okay.
Could be 2, I can't recall. Then after a few months, the next one came out. After a few months, the next one came out, and what it allowed you to do was it allowed you to be completionist about it. It allowed you to learn the maps. It allowed you to be able to get the achievements, kill in different ways, get the targets different ways, explore the map. But it wasn't, in terms of a story, it wasn't accessible because of it felt so disjointed. When you play it now as one long story, as one long game, it works.
Okay.
But when it was first released, I would not call it accessible at all. But the mechanics, they refined it to the point that yes, that part was accessible. The playing as the Hitman, as Agent 47, probably was never as much fun as it was in this game.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, you consider that? Like, because would you consider that man, I'm gonna make a poor lawyer because this is leading. Would you consider that like a key element of why you consider the reboot successful? Because I mean, I've had like a similar thing with Dark Souls 1 and 2, whereas 2 like it's reasonably easy to get into, still hard to master. But 1 was like, we're gonna kick you in the dick because that's what Dark Souls does. And here a similar development must have happened. Like because I remember in the earlier games, especially Silent Assassin, which was just, here's the target. What do you want to do? And shit, dude. What do you... Gun? Leave.
Gun. Or a portable knife.
Portable knife.
Portable knife.
One day.
I think the episodic nature of that new Hitman is, makes it a bit more accessible in my head, mechanically speaking, in that there's no ask for you, a player, to get involved in this like big narrative, which the previous games are kind of built on, right?
Yes, there is a sequence, and they often play into
right.
each other.
But like, this was like, okay, I'm a casual player. I just wanted to experience Hitman.
I guess you could see it that way. True.
And
That's
so, like,
true. That's true.
It's so
Like
confined.
you're free to be like, what I do here, I can experiment. So
Yeah.
you're more free to.
And then and I like that it's episodic in that the narrative builds as you kind of get invested in the game more.
There, I totally agree with you.
Right?
Yeah.
But if you just wanted to try out this whole new silent stealth knife, portable knife thing, like, sure, play it, like, have fun. Yeah, which I think makes it more accessible to a degree. Just because it's like low commitment and kind of asks you to be more invested in the game, which I think is why it works. Like, I want that. I've been wanting that game for years. I just haven't found the time to invest in it.
What do you think? I mean, what game, Pat, would you say, or game or movie or whatever, do you think actually works? What reboot works?
XCOM. Like,
Yeah, unsurprising from an XCOM expert.
being the guy that's only won one campaign.
But play the most R's.
Damn you, mods. Because it is the XCOM, the tactics game for a modern time. If there was a long period in time where before Firaxis' XCOM, the nearest to XCOM, it was a fucking wasteland for tactics games. It was all Eastern Japanese games. Eastern tactics games. This Gaia, Final Fantasy Tactics, Front Mission, which a lot of
front mission.
that's where I learned like I'm a tactics guy, and the Western stuff. I mean, we were in the age of Baldur's Gate, where it's like, oh, I only have 16 slots in my pack. Like, I can't carry more. And one of them is a baby.
Wait, was it an item thing, the baby?
Yeah, the baby was an item. That you couldn't drop. I don't know why.
Unbelievable.
It's a child of Ballspawn, you'll be fine. And XCOM,
So cute.
back in the day, followed that, like, spreadsheet love.
Yep.
Where it was just like... Here's 40 recruits. See how many of them live by the end of the day. And it was all about like managing loss. But that's not the kind of experience that sells today. You don't want loss. You want heroes that really fucking hurt when you lose them.
Yeah.
And it's all about that drawing that emotion from you rather than like, I made a good spreadsheet. Now it's like, oh, I fucked up. And that's the spirit of modern XCOM. Which I have my arguments against it over both XCOM 1 and 2. I have my extreme dislike of the lack of granularity and like I rolled one die and everyone's dead, like too much reliance on that one good roll. But it does suit its purpose of reintroducing this genre to more people, and that is what it's brought out. Like fuck, dude, it's becoming the new survival crafting game on Steam. Every day it's like new tactics games like on Steam. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
I guess I'll buy it.
There's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Even 2. Like I was, XCOM 2 was the first game I bought like release.
Yeah, I remember that. We all bought that.
Yeah.
Wait, which one?
XCOM 2. We all.
Oh, yeah.
Like I bought release date. Like
I was here downloading it.
Yeah. Right. So you know. I was really like into that because I enjoyed 1 so much.
So much. Like what
worked?
What worked for you?
Okay. I was thinking about this for a long time because like there's a lot of things that work comparatively in terms of like video media, but in comics, which is like ripe with reboots every so often, like
they call them crises in DC.
Yeah, almost every change in writer at this point is going to be a soft reboot of the character. That's just how it is now. With especially with like female Thor, that's essentially is a reboot of Thor. In that
the audience is different.
It's different. It's the same. Some of the old characters are the same, but the setting, the lead, the protagonist is different. But she's still doing the same Thor thing, you know. And it's a way to kind of see how certain changes about the character kind of transforms and informs the story.
Yeah, now she has cancer. Also, she's just she.
Yeah. Also, she's surprisingly not dead. Yeah.
No,
Name characters that stay dead in comics.
Jean Grey.
Ben Parker.
Well, I'll give you that one. Ben Parker stay dead.
Got him. Because, like, if he goes back to life, it undoes everything. Like,
Ben Parker and Batman's parents.
Yeah, Batman's
the
parents.
Waynes and Ben Parker.
Actually, excuse me, not even.
Oh,
Thomas
like,
came back.
They're still dead, but like there's a lot of stories that involve them faking their death, Thomas Wayne being evil, alternate dimension versions of them. So like
in every dimension, Ben is dead.
Like, Ben dies. Like that's the foundation of Marvel is built on that death. If he goes back to life, it undoes literally everything.
Oh, wait. Okay, wait.
Captain Marvel.
Right. There are infinite universes in Marvel, right?
Yeah.
It's
All
DC
of them
with
have a dead Ben.
every single one has a dead Ben.
No.
Okay.
No. Every
Your
single
argument is invalid.
Every single one with Spider-Man has a dead Ben.
Damn it, Peter!
And as far as I know, everyone has a Spider-Man.
I feel like That's not gonna be great for Peter to find out.
This is why I don't read comics anymore.
Like
It used to make sense.
his death is so crucial to the Marvel universe
And Spider-Man.
and Spider-Man particularly that he has to stay dead. And
By the way,
Captain Marvel.
with the way things are going now, I'm just gonna rename this episode and just make this the Spider-Man episode.
I was hoping for portable knives.
Spuderman. No, there is one that isn't portable.
What?
Wolverine's claws.
He brings them around though.
Yeah, but it's not like he can't leave them.
It's not detachable. So comics is like a long history of reboots, and for this one, I think the DC Rebirth, which is like so on the nose in terms of the naming convention, because the DC Rebirth is essentially the cure to a bad reboot.
What happened?
In 2009, I believe, DC tried to reboot itself using Flashpoint.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it's a Flash-centric event where
Flash saves mother.
yes, he undoes the timeline by going back in time to save his mother, whatever, and it cascades into this mess. This, I won't even say brilliant mess. It's just a mess of events that kind of forces that sets the DC universe up to be new and fresh, because I think they're having this issue with connecting with a younger audience.
Mm-hmm.
It is a heavy history around it, right? So like with all this new like superhero movies coming up, like they're having a time to like, how do we make this accessible to kids, and how do we make this more movie-esque, right? That's the access. So they did is like they restarted the entire universe again and kind of de-aged a few heroes. Everyone goes back to the start, to the origins, and it was a fucking mess.
Wait, is that the weird one where they were like, it's rebooted, but some things happened anyway, but some things didn't? It was really confusing.
It was really confusing. Like for most of the heroes, everyone started fresh, like origin story fresh. So Rebirth comes in 5 years later.
Done.
Rebirth comes in 5 years later, and kind of them reflecting on, okay, what makes these characters work? Because at one point during the New 50 run, the characters have morphed into just different versions of themselves. And so Rebirth comes along and it's like, you know what? Let's do it again.
How did they manage to do that?
Mostly bullshit. Mostly managed bullshit. But at that point, it doesn't matter. The how doesn't matter.
The important part is it worked.
The important part is worked.
And they made them into what?
Back into the classic understanding.
So basically, they just tried to undo everything.
Yeah, essentially. So they rebooted a rebooted universe.
Man, customer loyalty pays for a lot.
Because Marvel is kicking their ass at that point in sales.
Okay.
So hard. Because Marvel is winning in both the comics front and the movie front.
Wait, but they never got to fix their problem then. If Marvel was still winning and they tried to change it up so that they could fight Marvel, but then that didn't work, so they went back to original. They still have the Marvel problem.
Right now DC's winning in terms of sales.
Yeah, but
really?
But only because people had to threaten Thanos with arrest. That happened in the comics. And look out, Thanos has a gun.
Well, but for me, the thing's a cyclical thing. But the important part is they course corrected the way people respond to their characters.
Yeah.
So, question:
Yes.
when they rebooted, let's say for example, Superman, did they go back to the origin story?
No.
Okay, so how did they reboot that?
Literally, they got one from the old universe. Like that's how they did it. Like the old Superman is now in this universe.
How do you narratively do that?
You're gonna give Tim a stroke.
It's comics bullshit, Tim.
Wait, no.
It's comics bullshit. So literally, there's this like omnipotent being who plucked Superman from previous continuity 2 continuities back into this one. So the Superman that died in Doomsday's hands in the 1990s, that's the one.
Mullet Man?
Oh yeah, same guy. So like they reached out the hand of entropy.
Okay, so that guy is now in this new continuity. What happens to that continuity?
Oh, it's been erased.
Jesus Christ.
But Martian Manhunter was Black Bear. His name was Bloodwind, and he was offensive.
It's that's true. That's true.
Have a stroke.
He had the blood diamond.
Yeah, and he was all like, the spirits, they speak to me.
They don't, man. You're Martian. You're not black. Stop co-opting it. You're green. You have enough race issues in your planet. Let's not mingle in ours.
Soups told me that the NSC was after us.
Which is why when Doomsday showed up, he just punched him out. Bam, you're out of commission, dude.
He was gone. Come back for that stroke, man.
You okay?
This shit needs to stop.
Man, it was.
They didn't want, man.
No, it won't.
Especially now, they just celebrated the 75th year, 1000th issue of Action Comics.
How many times have they already tried to reboot Marvel, for example?
Oh, Marvel?
Yeah. Yeah.
3 times.
That's it? In how long has it been? 70, 60 years?
3 times in the past 10 years.
70, 80 years?
10 years, dude.
Does God Doom count as that
Yeah.
reboot?
Actually, that's the hardest reboot they've ever had in Marvel. The claim to fame of Marvel is we have never rebooted the universe
They did, alright.
until that.
Oh yeah, because the Ultimates were there too.
Yeah. So until that happened, they've never rebooted history. DC has rebooted
Hyper
7 times.
I don't know. Okay. Cool.
This
And you
makes
don't-
the movies look good.
Yeah.
It really does. It really does.
If you think the movie at this point is getting complicated,
Oh, no,
Oh,
I think
boy.
the movies are fine. They're just one too many. Well, they're too many.
there are 1,000 issues of Action Comics to this day. That run ran from 1938. Yeah, so I think as far as a successful reboot in comics goes, I think Rebirth was one of those. Yeah, so what didn't work for you guys?
Pat, shut it down.
What didn't work for you guys?
But Mummy did not work for me. I got your back, fam. Is this an old
Hey,
meme?
let's talk about Tom Cruise.
Oh my
In his
lord.
awkward running.
Oh my lord. He didn't do the awkward or anything.
Iconic running.
Right, sorry, my bad.
That actually does
running.
count as iconic
It
now.
is iconic.
God
Yeah.
damn. The Mission Impossible free run was like...
Yeah. Like I think it's in his contract at this point.
It's like ass kissing.
It's
It's
so supple.
But like... Because I never watched the original movie. I grew up on Brendan Fraser. You're on the side of the wrong side of the river. Racial Vice. Whoever the brother was. Odin
Fair,
no, Odin Fair was the Majet.
Yes, he was my favorite like side character, supporting character there.
Yeah, he was just cool. Like he's in black in a desert. Like, come on, dude, you should be. No, you're not sweating. You're
Nope.
just handsome and
Nope.
shit.
He's just like he's always like in control of his situation.
Like, clearly, this is cool.
Like he knows he's cool.
In what Anaxunamun! My God, and that's my favorite part. When Imhotep rushes in from off screen to kneel at the Scorpion King. No! You could not have done that where you were.
And then like right after that, he makes a scheme to kind of like control things.
But and then after the wonders of Mummy 1 and 2, we got Tom Cruise. Which was fine because that's a big name. There's a Mission Impossible movie coming out. I was like, maybe.
And it's a hard reboot.
Yeah, it's a hard reboot. Brendan Fraser
yeah.
isn't in it. It's a military operation now instead of some skeevy dude who's gonna get hung.
I forget that was the point of the
That
first
was the
movie.
first- he was gonna get hung, and he knew where the tomb was. And shit, Sofia Boutella as the mummy, which I guess, all right. And
Fresh. First time it's a female
yeah,
mummy.
actually, quite probably famously, first female mummy.
Yeah.
Like ever. Like there was no Bride of the Mummy
Yep.
because that's just the second mummy. Why make it Bride of the Mummy? And there's a laundry list of things on why the movie didn't work. Aside from Tom Cruise trying to be both the victim and the hero at the same time.
He wants it all, Pat.
And him getting the powers of Set, who they quite foolishly referred to as a god of death, and he is not.
He's not.
He is not the god of death. And they kept saying, Set's death powers will get you.
Is it Anubis the god of death?
Yes. He's the guy that measures your heart against a feather.
Yeah.
And if you're a fan of one thing, you can go fuck yourself. And Ufology's fucked up. One day, I will tell you all about the story of Ra and how he got a giant cat drunk.
I want that story.
That was the solution to all of his problems. But it didn't work because it wasn't entertaining. That is
It's as simple as that.
That is straight up the biggest problem.
It ain't good.
It ain't good. Like the only thing this thing asked, and it was trying to start a new cinematic universe. I believe the Dark Universe.
Yeah.
With Godzilla, with like Henry Jekyll, who was in the movie, played by Russell Crowe,
Dracula,
also known as Rough Australian, and our entertainment Roman,
Russell Crowe. I think it was supposed to be like Dracula was supposed to be in that
Dracula
universe.
Untold was supposed to be part of the series.
Wolfman, Creature from the Blue Lagoon, Frankenstein.
Yeah, if anything that Iron Man proved for the MCU was that all you needed to do was be a coherent movie. You don't need to be excellent, although I love Iron Man. You just have to be good. You just have to like put your foot in the door. And this was like, I'm gonna shit on your door. You wanna let me in?
They took the Halloween theme a little too far.
And you know what? The most interesting character there is Amanat. Like I could never catch the pronunciation. Like Sofia Boutel's character. No, not just because she's beautiful, but because she has the backstory.
Right.
Like she was the one who teamed up with Seth, and they were like, "Nah, she's just the bad guy." Then why did you give her complex motivations that don't matter in the end? Well, I don't know, because fuck you. Tom Cruise was like, I don't want to act today, so fuck. I just want to run,
climb
shit. He gets the powers of Seth, which aren't deaf, but he gets the powers of Seth. Brings people back to life, which isn't the power of Seth. But he brings
he brings people back to life?
Yes, he does. Performing a fatality on the stakes. And then he continues to keep the powers.
Oh, because next movie.
Yeah, but
wait, is he now supposed to be the mummy? Is that the idea?
Apparently.
Oh man! And you thought the comics thing was complicated, Tim?
No, I still think the comics takes the cake.
Don't try to save this one, man, dude.
What's so wrong with being plucked from a different timeline that is erased into the current one? I don't get it. So you don't understand.
I mean, hey Tim.
Let me tell you about Mass Effect Andromeda. Okay, so in case we didn't mention it, part of this reboot is not mentioning things that we have mentioned way too much in the past.
Yeah. We have a blacklist of that one.
We have a blacklist. We have an actual list.
Yep.
Anyway, mine. I feel like I should let Ponzi go first to get it out of the way, but mine is gonna be the Ghostbusters reboot.
Ooh, controversial. Nice. Ooh.
Really isn't. It has nothing to do with the fact that they're women. It has everything to do with the fact that the movie sucks.
It's a bad movie.
It's a bad movie. I found nothing likable about it whatsoever. I found none of the characters likable, and
not even Chris Hemsworth.
Not even he shouldn't have been in that movie. How there's that one thing that you are gonna regret for the rest of your life. There's that one thing. Could have been a bad relationship. Could have been, I shouldn't have bullied this guy's kid.
I like that you bullied the guy's kid.
I shouldn't have been in fucking Ghostbusters. So at the end, it just didn't work, the movie, I think. It didn't. So they were trying to do a reboot out of it. They were trying to make it relevant again. They were trying to get a new audience. This time they were going to use a different cast of characters. They changed their gender. They changed. I don't know, because they were trying to tell the same story.
They hit a lot of the same notes.
Yeah, they were trying to tell the same story, so it didn't actually seem like they needed to do it. I felt that more than anything, this felt like a cash grab reboot. This is something that they were trying to do just so that they could
try to make money off it. Because people were talking about old 90s stuff. This was around the time where people were like, hey, only 90s kids will remember. Sorry, that's us.
So
I hope to be the oldest 90s kid. So when I die, I can say only 90s kids were there. Sorry, go on.
I feel like it didn't have anything new to say. It is a movie that didn't need to be made.
That's actually kind of true, especially if it was just gonna retread the same ground.
Yeah, there was
particularly because it's gonna retread the same ground.
The characters were completely one-dimensional. They were unnecessary. I really didn't think there was anything good to be said about it. It didn't feel like they were even trying to make it updated to, because original Ghostbusters was what, in the 80s, right? Was it the 80s?
Around the 80s.
It was the 80s.
Yeah, it's the 80s.
All right, just because they tried to make it a bit more modern, it didn't work.
Is it because it didn't connect?
I don't even think it didn't connect. I mean, who are they going to try and connect to? Because, like we were talking about way in the beginning, what is a reboot? You want to try to connect to a younger audience. You want to try and connect. I mean, the only thing I felt here was they were trying to connect with a... forgive me for saying, but they were trying to make it very politically correct, but at the same time, they missed all of the cues as to what Ghostbusters was. And I'm not even trying to look at it through a nostalgic perspective, but in the sense that the kind of movie that Ghostbusters was originally, it had a story, it had a tone, and it would have been fine if they tried to change the tone. If they tried to change the tone, turn it into a more comedic thing, then that's great. If it works. But none...
They just did the same thing, except with slightly more jokes.
And the jokes didn't really work. I wish there was something that I could say to, for this movie. Something that would say that, okay, this is what Ghostbusters could be in 16, 17? I can't
16,
recall. 16. And this is what it should be.
Yeah, it's the strangest thing because you were saying like if we don't know if a reboot is meant to speak to a new audience or say something new. It uses the same message in an effort to deliver to the people who are already fans, so it's not introducing it to anyone. They tried it to make more accessible by adding comedy, which kind of fell flat, and not to mention a lot of it is undeserved. The pre-release nonsense, but that didn't help.
Yeah, absolutely. So
I was actually excited for that movie when it came out.
Ghostbusters.
Yeah,
I thought it might have been something.
Yeah. It had everything.
Well, I would have loved more Ghostbusters.
On paper, it had everything that could go right for it. It had the cast of all of them are comedy veterans from long runs with SNL, except for one, who has proven herself as like a movie comedy thing.
Although, sorry to cut you off there, I feel like that might have been the problem.
No, but like on paper, like that seems to be like, yeah, they have a shot at making this great.
See, let me throw this out there for a sec. I could be wrong, but it's just the way I could be wrong. But when the original Ghostbusters came out, the four of them were not yet comedy sensations.
No, they're not.
Right? But then they became comedy sensations.
Well, two of them.
Well, two
who's
of them.
one?
Huh?
It's
Aykroyd?
Bill Murray and Dan
Aykroyd
Aykroyd.
is comedy? I never saw him as
Aykroyd
comedy.
is a multi guy, but he does a bunch of comedies. But Blues Brothers was a comedy.
No, Dan Aykroyd was huge in comedy.
Yeah.
Really? I did not consider Blues Brothers a comedy. I thought it was just an awesome
zany
musical.
adventure.
Yes, I thought it was a zany comedy.
He also became a writer for comedy.
Yeah. And also hosted this radio show for years.
Bill Murray, right?
And Bill Murray,
And Bill Murray's Bill Murray. Right? You can't.
Yeah.
So they became comedy legend after Ghostbusters. And here you have what are supposedly established comedy people going in, but because of that, you're now assuming that this is going to be pure comedy.
And it was.
And it was, but it didn't mesh. Like, if they made...
But, I mean, if I figure, like, the same you said, if they're going to commit to a genre, better have the tools for that genre.
Sure.
So, like, when... I figured when people think of Ghostbusters, they think of comedy because exactly the people associated with the show, with the movie, became the comedy legends.
I'll tell you what. When I think of Ghostbusters, I think G. I think, boy, that was a funny movie because of the way the story went.
I didn't even think of it as a funny movie.
Oh no! I mean, it was. Dude,
I mean,
it was pretty funny.
Stay
It was
Puft was my
weird.
favorite thing there.
I mean, like just even having Bill Murray see. I forgot the actress's name.
Sigourney Weaver.
Yes. Walking into the room and seeing that.
And Rick Moranis. Let's not forget Rick Moranis.
Yeah, just that really weird scene again, right, where she's going all crazy
and possessed
and everything. Yep. That was hilarious.
I did not see it that way.
Okay.
I thought of it as a horror with
Alright.
jokes, with really like secret, subtle jokes. Like some of them are outrageous enough to be comedic.
I don't know. When I saw it, like the nuance of the acting of Bill Murray was amazing there because
like, he's really good.
Exactly. But the thing is, it wasn't slapstick.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Unlike this.
Yeah, but see again from the announcement and of the movie, I thought they had a shot.
Exactly. And then the movie came out, and then it became basically
slapstick train.
It became
Bridesmaids do Ghostbusters?
Ghostbusters
only works 'cause,
do
like,
Big Bang Theory.
Because
Oh no, dude!
Yeah,
no.
I'm going there.
you make it dirty, man.
I'm going
don't,
there.
Do not bring the lack of God into this.
Yes, the godless hedonist. But
It's
here's
just
the thing, and that's the disappointing part about it. I think because it became mostly ha ha, and Bridesmaids worked because it wasn't about ha ha. It was about subverting expectations.
sure. It was
Instead,
a well-written movie.
it was a well-written movie with the humor comes from like this is too outrageous to be real, but it's happening, and that's uncomfortably funny.
So in that respect, there's just a disconnect with the style of comedy with the tone of the movie.
Yeah, I think maybe that's one of the big things.
Well, I mean, yeah, we can argue.
Because I don't think it's a bad movie. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I think it's a bad movie. I don't
Alright.
think it's a good Ghostbusters movie. I think it failed as a reboot.
Exactly. Well, I
Interesting.
mean,
I think I would like it if the first Ghostbusters didn't exist. That's
Yeah. Like,
because
I'm
then
not with you there.
that would be like, oh, that's fresh.
yeah.
Instead of, oh, I liked it when Venkman was this guy.
Because the context hangs over it. And the goal of any reboot is to kind of stand apart from its roots.
Which is weird because they were bragging about how it wasn't going to be like the first Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
That was a huge push in their initial marketing.
If you couldn't step out from the shadow of your original, you've pretty much failed as a reboot.
Yeah.
Because you have to,
Well,
right? Like, you could acknowledge
I disagree. I'll disagree with that actually, and using my first example as an example,
Yeah.
Hitman, because it didn't. It didn't. That would be my daughter singing.
I see.
Yeah, in the
We have hit
background
that
is-
part of her age
Yeah.
where she sings.
So I disagree that it has to, have something completely new or stand out that much for it to work.
I think it has to stand out.
I think it has to stand out, but it doesn't necessarily have to stand out story-wise. It doesn't.
No,
You don't have
yeah.
to change it tone-wise.
No.
You don't have to change it story-wise, but it has to stand out. It has to be able to stand it on its own two legs.
Yeah,
That's the important part.
Well, reboot fails, like the Mummy reboot fails because you couldn't separate it from how good the older ones are.
Also, it was bad.
So it was bad.
Also, holy shit.
It was really bad.
Yeah.
The Ghostbusters thing, the first second Ghostbusters movie wasn't even that great.
That was the one I started
No.
with Vigo.
It wasn't that great.
No, it wasn't that great.
They were barfing happy gunk on
Yeah.
people.
But here's the thing about that: it doesn't have to be. I mean, look at Star Wars.
No, but it's my
right?
point. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be great, but it still kind of works.
But this new Ghostbusters isn't a sequel.
it's not.
It's a reboot. So
which higher stakes for them.
exactly, and it didn't deliver.
Yeah.
So I mean,
So it couldn't define itself from those two.
yeah,
It couldn't achieve its objective of presenting to a new audience.
Yeah.
And neither could it entertain.
Yeah.
It wasn't the Russell Crowe of Ghostbusters.
Oh my god, no. His name was Maximus Decimus Aurelius. And you will remember his name in this world or the next. Are you not entertained? Wife, husband to a dead wife, father to a dead son. And if you're curious, that was the first movie I ever saw on DVD when DVD was new. That
Wow.
was the first one.
Man, because I remember like seeing it in like double disc VCDs. Like, and I'm not gonna change discs.
I guess it's a bad ending.
I guess, yeah, whatever.
It's okay. What does not work for you?
For me, I mean, I'm gonna go back to my heroes, the Superman movies. At this point,
Which one?
technically 3 of them. The last 3.
Okay, so that's Brandon Roof.
Yeah, Brandon Ruth, and the 2 Henry Cavill ones.
2 Henry Cavill ones.
The Man of Steel and Batman v Superman.
Oh yeah, that movie exists.
It's a dumpster fire.
What's your mother's name?
Martha. I mean, boy.
You know, it was an actual argument for a time that people just didn't get the scene. They were like, that's what humanizes Superman to Batman. And I'm like, we know, it's still shit.
Like, that doesn't change anything.
Like, I mean, how else do you interpret? He spoke a word. How dare he? Snap your neck,
Stab it. Yeah, so this and this kind of like breaks my heart a little bit because like the Superman Returns movie I was so hyped for.
Yeah.
It is the first Superman movie since the Donner era. And the last Superman movie, Superman 4: Quest for Peace, was also a garbage pile.
Is that the one where he outraced the world to catch nuclear missiles?
Yeah, because the last.
Man, I love old movies. You can't make jokes and then new shit.
Like, when you say something ridiculous and the answer is probably, yeah, that's about right.
You mean these missiles?
And there's one he was like drinking in the bar, wasted.
I miss Christopher Reeve.
God bless his soul. So like it's an exciting thing because you have a bunch of it's Superman for the new audience, right?
Yeah.
Completely new generation of kids going into Superman. It was like fresh off Batman Begins, right? That was like right after Batman Begins.
That was good.
And Batman Begins was great.
Yeah.
And so like hopes were high that this is finally they have the technology to have him fly. They have the technology to kind of like
Swear to me.
to do stuff cinematically.
Yeah, except
and
he just didn't get a voice changer.
yeah, and they cast them pretty well, I think. The Superman, he's slightly skinnier, but like he still kind of looks like Christopher Reeve, which is enough nostalgia, huh?
Roof?
Yeah, enough nostalgia there, but also kind of different.
And
Right?
an uncomfortable amount of camera shots and dick height.
Currently uncomfortable amount of like Kevin Spacey shots.
Man, some
But
things
at
don't
least-
age well.
But at least he played a villain.
So
we can-
screaming at a kid.
Yeah, and stabby stab. So
Wrong.
So I mean that kind of like was an interesting production, but it didn't work because they didn't understand what created the Superman magic as a character rather than like the trappings of a Superman movie. It was very much a tribute to the Donner movies that they forgot to put something new in it.
Also, the plot arc was Superman was an absentee father.
Well, that one. But to be in his defense, like long distance in space to get back. But like the plot is like kind of stupid in a modern context. Right?
Wait, is this the one where Lex was like, I'm gonna make more land with kryptonite?
Yeah, man, that's the one. And you know what? You know why? He wants to sell that land because it's in real estate. Money is in He doesn't even want to conquer the world. He just wants to make a buck
that he doesn't need.
That he doesn't need. His plan in Superman 2 was like break off California with nuclear missiles.
Wow, that would have killed
so he
the
can
world.
get a beachfront land piece.
So I mean, it kind of holds the spirit.
The thing is, like, it holds the spirit too much,
but it doesn't match the tone of it being.
It doesn't match the tone of any of the modern era. Like, it's like you're still making a story for the previous generation, except now you have the CGI to make a giant kryptonite island
and the modern sensibilities and seriousness of today.
Yeah, like nobody knows Lex Luthor in the current audience that it showed as a real estate mogul.
I don't even know him as a real estate.
He
mogul.
was for a while. He was in the movies. He was
a scientist.
That's the thing. In the movies, in the Donnerverse, he was always a real estate guy.
Huh. So you think he's a setup of Trump?
Well, I'm not saying that, but he is played by Kevin Spacey.
He did become president, right?
That's true.
I mean,
guys,
everything is in the comics. We should have just read more. This has been telegraphed in 2007. Wake up, people.
Wake up, sheeple. Stop using your iPads.
I have an iPad. Yeah, so like it doesn't jive with the sensibilities and tone of the current era. So it didn't work. Like, you're expecting a Superman movie with the flying and the CGI to have one fight.
But there isn't.
The only people he fought in that movie were robbers, Pat.
Also the ground. He
lifted the ground.
He beat gravity.
Kryptonite gravity. Like, it's all the things. It's like they were still very much trapped in the nostalgia and forget to like move forward where to the audience that would pay attention to this.
That explains why people were so excited over the Cavill thing when he actually fought Faora.
Yeah, and so like when the next set of Superman movies came out, like finally we get fights.
And Zod,
which was like an obscure comic book character. And so when we finally get that fight, the problem with that set of movies is that they kind of went overboard the other side.
Too much fight?
Too much of just violence. And not enough Supermaning Superman. So the second batch of movies was just like angry Superman. So like while the Ralph movies kind of had this like apple pie Americana Superman down, the character down, the actions around it didn't work.
Yeah.
The other one is like the Cavill movies, like we have all the set pieces. It's modern. It's all hyper violent and big in scale.
Was that Snyder?
Yeah, Snyder.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's also well shot. Like, I give him credit for shoot framing the thing.
Yeah,
well.
But he never seemed to have gotten over 300.
Yeah. But like it doesn't seem like a Superman story though.
We know why the movies don't work.
Yeah.
How do they not work as a reboot? Because I mean, aside from it appearing to be been aimed at 90s edge, because that was still infecting with shit out of the 2000s. Thanks, Wolverine. What else makes it fail as a reboot?
The newer ones?
Yeah, aside from the obvious almost failure to reintroduce Superman as a hero.
I think it's mostly that that when you want to reboot, you want something that is recognizable about it, right? The thing you cared about is why it was deemed worthy to reboot in the first place. And a gross misunderstanding of that could lead to just having it as a shell of its original thing. Where it doesn't change, like the new movies did not have the spirit, nor did it introduce something new in a good way. It introduced something new in like a really weird, skeevy way. That he's the one who destroys the city and doesn't give a shit. Like in the Batman v Superman, the most telling thing there was like he goes into Capitol Hill with the PIC thing. The PIC thing explodes, and the first thing he does is fly away
and not save anybody.
The building was on fire.
I'm done here.
He left.
That's not
Superman left a fucking burning building, Pat. In the capital of America during his trial. Like, what? Like, was That's the one we're supposed to root for to save us?
And again, Bruce, man, shit's fucked, dude.
Like, Bruce was crazy, but he was also kind of right to distrust this guy. Like,
until he like had a mother
of Superman is someone you can root for. Like, but like, oh, his first move is to leave the scene of the crime, like a guilty motherfucker.
No, dude, he was just, I gotta wash this piss off. There's a lot of
That's a lot of piss. I don't know why it's a lot of piss.
Fucking Lex.
Like, the movie is ripe with errors is a bad thing, but like I think more damaging is that the thing they're rebooting is unrecognizable.
So we have like a somewhat clear idea of what a reboot is. We've discussed like, hey, this thing works and hey, this doesn't. I've made my quota for faux pas. So now we can talk about what part of the cycle we're in. Because reboots and sequels and everything that is based on something from a previous work comes in cycles. What part of the cycle are we in? Are we in are we at a moment where it's reboot city, we gotta re-explore old ideas, or is the field fresh? Is the market ready for more new things?
I mean, come on, go.
I think we're in a weird transition period. We're in a weird transition period now because the ones us, okay, I mean the millennials, quote unquote, the ones who actually appreciated the content before, the ones who appreciated the movies back in the 80s, we are now the ones who are making the movies. So
oh boy.
So and that's going to continue for maybe about 10 years, you know, maybe more. So everyone's going to be thinking, okay, how are we going to show these movies that we enjoyed so much to the next generation? So I imagine that the reboots are going to continue. It would be great to have some new IPs, and there are gems which come out. Usually, they're adaptation from books. I mean,
I would argue that John Wick is one of those.
The first one, yeah. I mean, I'd argue things like The Arrival. Is something else. You know, I mean, they're new IPs. These aren't gonna be trilogy. Well, John Wick was or is going to be, but I mean, these aren't necessarily
Arrival
things.
Is not gonna be.
Arrival is not gonna be. But these are not things that are exactly going to be great trilogies. And they don't have to be.
Yeah,
so
and I think
that's
to your point. I think we should. I mean, we as in like the collective, we should step away from obsessing over trilogies.
Yeah.
That was a sickness started with Lord of the Rings.
I mean...
Yeah.
Because it becomes a matter of like just forcing the story sometimes.
Also because of the Lord of the Rings stupid Hobbit. They did not deserve 3 movies.
It did not. Exactly. It's exactly one of those. Like, you can... Lord of the Rings... The War of the Ring makes sense for a trilogy.
Yeah.
The books made it a trilogy. Even if Tolkien...
intentionally made it one
book, right? Yeah. Sige, fine. But The Hobbit did not deserve the 3 book. It's a disservice to the material at that point. I think we should focus on like just creating good stories. Yeah, but if there's more to say, fine. But a lot of the times, like the movies nowadays are just like it's planned as a trilogy.
Yeah.
Even if we don't know how well it's gonna go.
That was a sickness for publishers around the J.K. Rowling heyday. Like if you were to pitch a story to them, one of the questions they'll ask themselves and the writer, if they're that interested, is, can you make this a saga?
Yeah.
A single book, like, it's hard to market shit, man. Like, if they're going to commit to something, better pay off for a long time.
Jim Butcher had that thing, I think. I read it somewhere where like the question asked was, like, when you're pitching something, tell them your first story, but prepare to answer the question, so what's in book 20?
Yeah.
Or what's in book 15?
Right? That problem continues today.
But I think, like, I mean, I get the point, but at least in books, it makes sense in that way. There's a lot. It's a lot weirder for, I think, movies in particular. Because if you want to tell a serialized story, there are other options.
Not according to Marvel.
No, I'll think that even Marvel, I think, is this interesting machine where like it's intentionally going back to serial filmmaking, right? And the 1920s, like early part of cinema, where you have to come back every week to just watch one full story of Buster Keaton or Captain Marvel or Batman.
Man, Buster Keaton.
Right. So like, I mean, to Marvel's credit, at least there's an intentionality and a plan.
Also, it's working.
And also it's working. But like a lot of the ones that don't work comes from like, we just have one okay idea
and we want more movies
from the get-go. Like The Mummy is one of them. Like it's more than they were supposed to chew.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like shitty. I mean, they should just not.
I do agree with them in that transitionary period, in that, especially the part where we're trying to show like the next generation, hey, here's what we enjoyed as a kid.
Yeah.
What really struck out for me that was happening when? Well, Dragon Ball. It has experienced a resurgence in popularity.
Resurgence, right? That's the one.
It has its own studio now. Like Toei was like, we're gonna make Dragon Ball. Now it's like, here's a bunch of people who are just making Dragon Ball 24/7. This is their life now, which is, and they're focused like a lot of the creators for it, especially fighting games or the interactive stuff. They're not focused on creating the same stuff, but they're trying to evoke the same memory of like, this is what I remember of Dragon Ball. I remember Frieza being a dick, but he was a dick, and it's not exactly what Dragon Ball was, but it's what you feel like it was when you think about it.
Yeah.
The nostalgia patterns are there, but not beholden to the exact beats.
No, one final question. Nightmare scenario. What should you not want rebooted? Like, you look at it and like they reboot this, like, I am signing a petition that won't do anything.
I have one.
So do I.
Right.
Go ahead.
Star Wars. Straight up. Like a new version of New Hope.
I got some bad news for you. They did that a few years ago.
No, but see, like, it is a beat for beat. It's still in the same, like, it's a response to New Hope. So thematically, it's beat for beat, sure. Yeah. But if they're telling me they're gonna remake New Hope, like, from the ground up,
a new Hope,
like new Luke, new Leia, new Han.
Well, we're done here.
New Hope is a flawed movie, but it works because it's a product of that era.
Yeah.
To redo that is very difficult and dangerous, especially at the current like face of the Star Wars brand.
I'm genuinely afraid for the current face of the Star Wars brand.
I am. Like, Solo is probably the first Star Wars movie that's not a must-see.
Yeah. That's why they, like...
Which I think falls victim to the whole...
There are too many.
Rush it. There are too many. And
because it works so well for Assassin's Creed.
Yeah. We learned that one. And the fallout from the previous Star Wars movie.
Yeah, they stopped all marketing right after TLJ.
Right?
To distance the two movies.
Like, and if you're telling me like in the next like 5 years, they're gonna remake A New Hope, like, why?
Yeah.
Let it die.
Yeah. Is it you, young Sheldon?
Okay, let's be clear here. I'm sure the kid is wonderful.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure most of the people behind that thing.
It's the production.
Like, what? Who asked for you? Nobody looked at this that Big Bang Theory and said, "Yeah, I want more of that guy."
Dude, apparently a lot of people want more of that show.
I don't want to live in this world anymore.
It's disappointing. But yeah, so what's yours?
No, mine is pretty simple. Lost.
Oof.
Oh,
can you imagine a remake of Lost?
Is it the same ending?
I don't even know how you'd begin a remake of Lost. It's ridiculous to even think that one would do that, because how?
But let's walk through that. If you're going to remake Lost, and seriously remake Lost, what would be the changes?
A bunch of people.
Yes.
So we're talking about how many people were there?
But 11.
No. 11 was the core group.
Yeah.
But we're talking about what? A few hundred.
Yeah.
A lot died.
Full plane full.
Full plane full. So we're talking about originally, let's say about 300.
Yeah.
Are on a ship headed to Mars, or headed out somewhere.
So it's
I mean, it's a new Lost,
right?
Let's bring it to space. It's the same damn space.
I think that story has been told.
Now on Netflix.
I think that story has been told, Tim.
So instead, they. I haven't even seen it yet. I don't know if I'm actually explaining Lost in Space.
At this point, let's assume that it is.
They accidentally predicts plot.
Accidentally crash on the planet. And
I think you're spot on so far.
seriously? Because the original Lost in Space wasn't a planet, right?
Was it not?
I don't know.
Is it an expedition?
It was an expedition. I thought gosh, it's been so long since I've seen the
They
original
might
Lost in
actually
Space.
predict season 1 of Lost in Space by retelling the J.J. Abrams Lost in Space.
But that is a series I just do not want touched at all anymore.
What are the major changes you'll do
With what?
for Lost? Lost, parentheses, in space, close parentheses.
Not do it is a nice major change.
In space.
Not to be confused with Lost in Space.
This is Lost, parenthesis, in space.
There's a comma. Lost, comma, in space.
Just give me my Lost. Don't touch it. Never touch that.
Never touch that.
Never touch that.
It's a beautiful baby boy.
Yeah. Oh man. Pat, what do you think?
For me, it's I'm gonna go full weeb. Like,
This is a rare sighting of Pat going full weeb.
there are two stories where I don't want redone: Arcade
Okay.
and Full Metal Alchemist, because
Strange enough, which had a technically soft reboot.
that was terrible. No, it's an adaptation.
But isn't Brotherhood a reboot technically of the...
It is
a more faithful adaptation of the...
a more faithful adaptation. Because those are two of the tightest thematic stories I've ever seen in manga. Like
RK Rurouni Kenshin.
Rurouni Kenshin.
Let's be clear. Up to what chapter? Rurouni Kenshin are you talking about? Do we hit like...
Before I found out he was a pedophile.
No, I mean... Yes, but that's a creator.
No, up to and including the final ones.
Including Feng Shui?
No, that's anime only.
Oh, okay. So manga.
Manga.
Oh, okay. All right. It's like, just be clear. It's no like German.
No,
Feng Shui.
Feng Shui was weird. Amaku
Schneider.
Sashiro was weird.
Schneider.
That was. You could have just ended the anime, but no.
You had to go on. It's Schneider with a fucking lance.
And more to the point, the themes presented in both stories for Full Metal Alchemist, it was the circle, something for everything, something must be taken, like in balance and everything. The way who fights who and why they fight it, everything is in a perfect circle. Like if you look at the plot and look at the start and the beginning,
right,
you see loops. If
you diagram the story,
it's perfectly done.
Huh.
Like I cannot think of a story that's better done, or at least better structured. Arcade, evergreen. You want to be forgiven. You do bad things. Life is important. You cannot retell the story because that is an evergreen concept. You might want to forgive yourself sometimes. You might want to talk to friends about problems. Don't be an assassin. Don't kill your girlfriend.
Tip 1, don't be an assassin. Tip 2, don't kill your girlfriend.
Pro tips from Kenshin Himura. And that's the worst reboot ever, where they're like, we're going to tell this to a new audience. But the old one still works, and it's still entertaining.
That's an interesting point. Like, if the old one works, there's no need to retell.
Just watch the old ones.
Just watch the same thing.
Yeah, give the old guy some sales. Yeah, that's my idea.
That's
Those two,
RK
like,
and Full Metal.
Yeah. All right. So
I guess that's it.
Yeah.
Don't touch Lost in Space.
Don't touch Lost. Don't
touch Star Wars.
Don't touch Rurouni Kenshin and Full Metal Alchemist.
And maybe
reboots are okay.
Oh, reboots are okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Just
make it good.
Measure it. Don't go crazy. You're okay.
I mean, like, I think it's a very simple rule to have. It's just like, if you want to do something, do it well.
Don't watch The Mummy. Don't watch Ghostbusters.
Well,
Superman's
actually, no. I'll do the reverse. Watch those.
Oh, fine.
Judge for yourself.
No, The Mummy's just a waste. You're not getting that.
I'd say the same thing about Ghostbusters, so I don't know what he's talking about.
You can learn that lesson elsewhere.
Do not watch Batman v Superman. I implore you.
You can learn that lesson.
If you want to watch a Wonder Woman movie, she has one. Like,
it's pretty good.
it's pretty good.
It's just weird if you watch Captain America right before it, because you'd be like, why don't they team up?
Right? I think that's it.
All right,
So,
welcome to season 2.
Welcome to season 2. Boy, the boys are back.
Again,
Kind of. Yeah.
you can find us. Well, you probably know already because you're listening to this.
Maybe.
But
yeah, so we were on iTunes. Just go to your iTunes and
Or
look
your
for
whatever
us there.
your podcast scraper thing is.
Yeah, we should be there.
bkcpodcast.com.
And you can go to our Facebook page.
BKC Podcast
Yeah.
at Facebook.com.
Nope, don't follow that link. Nope.
Don't follow that link. And we're on Twitter at BKC Podcast.
We are very consistent. We know branding.
Yeah.
Also, apparently we're sponsored by Apple. Like, I'm looking at a lot of Apple products in front of me.
There's a lot of them Apple stuff here. But that's it. Yeah. I hope you join us next time in a couple of weeks. Have a good day. Night.
Yep.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
See ya.